Okay, episode 12 of the Northeast Corner. Been quite looking forward to this episode, my friend. Musicians Faye Murray, part 3.
Yeah, very excited. I've missed the last two, so
Yeah,
it's nice to be present for this one.
you're
Nice to be
ill
present
for
this
part
one.
2. But to more important things, we've got Chris Grant on the show
Yeah,
today.
very
How
well
are
done.
you, my friend?
Fantastic, boys. How you doing?
Oh, well,
Not bad. Quite
yeah.
nervous ourselves, I think. Quite nervous ourselves. Yeah, we've been looking forward to this, definitely. We've listened to some of your stuff. Your most recent one, Oh Boy.
Oh boy.
Fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Actually, fantastic. Really
Glad you
enjoyed
enjoyed
that
it. Was your head motion?
I was actually sat there thinking. I was like, oh wow, actually, yeah, this is. So it's been liked. It's already out on my playlist on Spotify. So yeah,
Brilliant.
enjoying it.
how's the last... I know we've always said like we don't want to speak about coronavirus again. We always come on to it, but it's just because it's relevant. How's like the last 18 months for you as a musician been? Just because I would imagine your industry especially, I suppose it's kind of the same for most industries, but the live gigging and so on and so forth has kind of all been shut down for the majority of, a year and a half. So I take it you're going to be well excited for everything opening up again and stuff.
Aye, the biggest learning thing was learning how to record live gigs in the house to put them on Facebook so people can watch. That took a couple of wee weeks to get used to. And then the other thing which was interesting was when everything stopped, you're used to getting praise every week, and all of a sudden no one knows you. Like,
Yeah.
so once the ego got a hold of that, and then once the body was rested, because it was tight for so long, and then it released after a few weeks. Now getting back into playing, I'm rusty. Ken.
Yeah.
You need to limber up a bit.
I would imagine there's quite like a strain to playing a gig physically, like you're saying, because you're standing there for multiple hours at a time, and that, not to mention the mental kind of aspect of it. But let's get straight into it. Every time that we do one of these interview series, we like to ask, about your early life. And the one question we have is, not the one question we have multiple questions, but the one question that we have currently is, what was the first experience of music in your life that like made you think, I need to pursue this as a passion? Obviously it manifested itself to you wanting to take up full time in that, which we'll get into.
That was a video of Hendrix playing the Isle of Wight and putting his guitar on fire.
Yeah,
That was it, was it?
that's such an iconic video, man.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes. I've not done it yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah,
Once that has been completed, it's went full circle.
I'm going to buy a cheap guitar and put it on fire. Okay.
So tell us a bit about your early life. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Keith and lived in about 20 different houses until I was 20, and I've only been in 10 houses in the last 15 years. So, but it's all been in Moray, apart from a wee trip to Glasgow and Edinburgh. Lived in that places for about a year. Apart from that, the rest been in Moray.
All right.
The closest I got to the Lossy was Boar's Head. I used to live beside Boar's Head.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting. in the woods, more
Yeah,
or less.
aye.
Okay.
See
Is that
more-
near the HGV driving centre bit?
No, it's beside a farm. Stone Wells, I think it was called the farm. I'm not sure. Can't mind. Oh, there was an ostrich farm beside there as well. Okay. But I lived in there for a while. But it's Falconers. Went to school at Milnes High School there, like Ken.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too bad.
So what age would you say you got into music properly?
Properly, I started playing when I was about 10. Playing a guitar, but couldn't play a guitar and tune until I was probably 14,
Yeah.
and couldn't sing and tune until I was about 21. But started getting a real good go at 22.
Yeah.
Was it all just like self-taught, or did you go take classes and or lessons or anything like that?
My dad taught me a couple of chords, but he was a terrible tree surgeon when he was younger.
Right.
And for some reason, he's holding the tree, and the guy with a chainsaw took off his first finger. Ooh. So he was a terrible guitar player. He showed us the first couple of chords.
Yeah.
But I would never, if I had the time again, I would never teach myself. I would go to a teacher.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of amazing teachers in Moray.
Am I right in thinking that you offer lessons as well?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But I'm not very good at it. I'm not a good teacher. Okay.
Just trying to like spark interest in the younger generation, really. Just trying to keep it going.
Just try to get money in my pocket.
At least we're honest.
No holds barred at this house.
Okay.
So, Chris, in 2007, it says that you left employment to follow your music full time. What job was it that you had that you left at the time? Were there any other factors, or was it just that you just wanted to pursue your music?
Well, I used to fit windows, and then I took a trip to Glasgow, and I was there for a while, and I went to these open mic scenes, and I thought, this is really easy. These people that are running it are getting paid to run these open mics.
Yeah.
And then I came back, and I worked at Baxter's for 2 or 3 days, and I'm on the line, I'm cleaning something, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna have to try and make a living doing the music.
Just dedicate yourself
So
to
I
it.
chucked it in, and me and my mate started a open mic night at Flanagan's in Elgin, and then I thought, right, that's it. I got 40 quid for playing for a couple of hours. I thought, this is it. This is it.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all if you think about it, is it?
And that's it. So ever since, no turning back. No turning back.
Do you remember like the exact moment when you said like your job at the time, like I'm leaving? And can you remember what, like, did you say at the time that you were going to pursue music full time, or was it just something that came after that you'd actually left employment that you were like, no, I'm going to pursue this? Because I'd imagine, like you said, with the money that you got from something that you're truly passionate about, sparked like a real big sense of euphoria, which we've mentioned a couple of times on here. Of once you're something that you know you're passionate about and you're good at, and then you get a bit of success from it in a way, however minuscule or whatever that may be, I'd imagine that's a feeling that you never replicate again.
Aye, euphoria. Aye. I can mind being at Hendry Hydraulics and pushing the trolleys about all day and saying to the boys, I'm gonna be a singer, boys, Ken. I couldn't sing in tune. And they were all taking the piss, like, all of them. But then as soon as I decided, and then they seen that it was working, it's like fucking high five.
Well, at least they came back to support you, though, eh? That's the main thing. As long as you get the support, I suppose, because it's a big step. It is a big step. I mean, have you got family? Have you got a family of your own?
I've got a 5-year-old, and I've got a missus.
So it's a big step.
And a dog and 2 cats, Ken, and a house. So I've got the stresses that comes with a modern man, you can.
And the supportive of the music, excluding the dogs and cats. I don't want to put them under too much pressure.
Well, the wee loon is.
Yeah.
He loves it. I think the missus quite likes it sometimes, but then I'm out the house every weekend.
Yeah.
But maybe she likes that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
She can watch her TV and do what she does, Ken.
That's it.
Ken.
A bit of girl time.
Aye.
That's it. So, Chris, I mean, your discography is quite impressive for, like, I mean, you left in 2007 to pursue it, and like you said then, you weren't completely ready at that point, but you were getting yourself there, you were getting yourself out there. But your 5 albums, one of them took, it stated 4 years. What happened with that? Was that the road?
That was the road.
Yeah.
It was murder. It was absolute murder. Like.
Yeah, I read a little bit about it. I just seen 4 years, and I thought, ooh. I was like, interested on this one. So what happened in that? Because that's actually a 3rd album that came out.
I got a producer, this guy in Huntly, Colin Austin, and I worked with him in the Tread and Water as well. Me and Colin are good pals now, and just the level of quality he's bringing to me is just taking things right up. And so we had to go and build this album. So me and the drummer went to a studio. No. Take that back. We did a heap of drafts with this one band, and they were terrible. They were just awful. So then we did them again, and then the guy that we were working with we fell out with him in this separate studio, so he wouldn't give me the tracks. So I had to go and re-record them with another bass player and drummer, and then that was in the Ennies. And then we recorded them again and lost them again. So that took a heap of time, but it was really good because if we'd stuck with the original drafts, they weren't great.
I would imagine at the time as well, even though, like you said, the quality was a bit off, the fact that you were kind of having to start from square one again from the album was quite demoralising at the time, I would imagine, considering you put so much into the album process, I would imagine.
Aye, it's hard hitting, but I learned quite quickly that it was kind of happening for a reason, so the quality was getting better. And end up binning a heap of tracks anyway once we'd record them again and bringing new songs in.
All right, so it got a revamp basically. So that's not bad. So it went through a rework, a revamp, and then you decided this is it. This is what I want to put out.
Aye.
See, that's good. So that's quite a journey that one album took.
That one took a hell of a time, and it's good with all the albums. They all teach you a lesson on how not to do the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but this one that we've just released just now has let me see what I need to do in the next one.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
the things that I'll take from this one, like getting this band that we've got just now to record with, we'll be using them again. These guys, and they're happy enough to play.
See, that's good.
And the quality of demos that I can now give to them, because I've managed to get a studio in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So the drafts that are now ready to send out for the next album, they're a more complete picture rather than just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. They've got drums, bass, piano, vocals, guitars, blah blah blah. So when I give them to the players to learn, it's so much easier for them to learn now, kid.
Yeah.
When did you write your first song, Chris?
I think it was about 16 or
16?
16, 17.
What gave you the inspiration to do that?
Probably a breakup.
Yeah.
Most likely
Yeah.
a breakup, Kane.
It's a lot of it does come from emotion, though, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
for
So
sure.
I suppose if you an emotional state, a lot of them do tend to turn to writing, don't they? And change it into song. Yeah, so
It's a
your
very
first one.
it's a good way of expression, right?
Well, that's it. Music. Well, they say music is all about expression in the end, isn't it?
So you describe yourself as a soul musician from what I was reading. What drew you to the soul music?
I heard Joe Cocker, and I heard him making some kind of noise with his mouth that was like a scream and a shout and a cry in one of his songs, and I thought, he's no holding back, and he's putting some real soul into it. So then I started looking at kind of 60s, 70s Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking these tracks are kicking, they're really going. This is what we have to do.
Because on your album Stones on the House, I thought that one was very blues, very, very, very bluesy when I was listening to that. So the change from that one to Treading Water, that's why I think Oh Boy, for me, I was like, that's enjoyed that. It's fast. It was a bit faster. Although like I like blues, yeah, I think where you came from your first one to now, phenomenal.
Aye.
If that, like you say, when you've jumped up for the people you've changed with to the people you're with now, you can hear the quality change in it, and it's good.
Cheers, my man.
Definitely good. I was well impressed. Like I say, he's smiling away.
John's literally about to become a groupie here.
really, really impressed. But I mean, you've touched on it a little bit. But what is the full process that actually goes into putting an album together and getting it out there?
So the first thing, you've got to write the songs. So usually for me, pen and paper, a guitar, and you just start picking some chords and singing random words and trying to catch a melody, bam, 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 and then maybe the emotion or whatever you're thinking about that day, something that's playing on your mind, and gets cathartic. Can you write it down? You think, all right, okay, that's helping me out. So eventually the song takes place, and that's usually for me, it's between 5 minutes and half an hour. That's the writing of the song, and that's like 3/4 it done, and only a wee bit editing is going to go into the writing. So then you've got an idea in your head what you want the rest of the musicians to play on it. So then you get together, practice, and I didn't like doing that.
Yeah.
I really didn't like doing that.
Can become quite tedious, I would
I
imagine.
got a fair kick with the last one, with the last band. It's always kind of felt like work, this kind of teaching the guys the songs they've never heard before.
Yeah.
But got a real kick the last time. And then you go and record them. And then the guy has recorded them, sends them back to you, and you say, right, we need to make these notes, this notes. And then editing back and forth. He's done it 3 or 4 times. So you're happy with the final product, and then you've got to send it to mastering. A guy's going to master it and put in all the adjust the sound of it. Okay, nothing about it. They call it dark art. Nothing
For
about
a reason.
and then they put in all this barcodes, digital barcodes and stuff. And then you need to send that to a company along with the artwork. So you need to have already sussed out your artwork. And then the company's going to print it, send it away for a couple of weeks and print it, and then upload your stuff onto Spotify and online streaming stuff. Months and months in the past for the day that it's going to come out.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times it's going to fuck up, and that happens all the time.
Is that part of the reason? I noticed that Treading Water is not actually going to be available on digital platforms until the 21st of December, I believe it is.
Aye.
Is that particular reason why the digital version of the album is going to be quite far away from the physical copy release?
No, that's to do with marketing.
Okay.
Aye, so I got 1,000 CDs printed.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to sell 250 CDs to break even.
Mm-hmm.
So my theory was that if the whole album's available online, at the same time,
it'll affect the
physical one comes
CDC
in.
sales. Yeah.
Okay, so every month until Christmas, there's going to be a new single out.
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody that's been teetering on the first single, I quite like it, but I'm not prepared to buy the album. Maybe they'll hear their second single and the third. I'm buying the album.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a plan.
That's
Sweet.
good marketing, to be fair, though, isn't it?
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
Is that
Fingers
just,
crossed.
is that just from your own thinking, or do you have someone that advises you on marketing and stuff like that?
I watch a guy called Damien Keys. Watch Damien Keys, folks. He seems to ken what he's talking about. He's on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks me through that. Talks everyone through it. But he's got a marketing academy that he set up as well.
Oh,
so
right,
pay
okay.
200 quid and you get in for the year. I've not done that yet, so I'm going to do that for the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it important? Like, obviously, you want to reach the biggest audience as you can, right? Because that is the name of the game of marketing. But is it quite an important thing for you for the because obviously the physical copies of the albums are quite a more local thing. Is that quite an important thing? Because kind of. It sounds a bit cliche here, but remembering your roots and like where you come from and that, do you think it's definitely, it must be an important market for you to, get first, I don't want to say first refusal because that sounds negative, but like the first kind of taste of the album and whatnot?
It's like 90% of my fans are all in Moray.
Mm-hmm.
So I ken the guys in certain tunes that they've bought the previous albums. I've got their names written down. I ken that they're fans, they're going to buy the new one. So that's really important to keep them happy.
Yeah.
Okay, and they still like CDs. So that's really good. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like live gigging and that, I remember you like gigging at the beach bar and stuff like that back in the day. And I kind of want to take you back to your first gig, which I think you briefly mentioned with the £40 and stuff like that. How intimidating was that? Because obviously this is the first time that you're showing your music to an audience, or even just your music ability to an audience. How intimidating was that to get over from like a mental perspective and so on?
The sweat was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. And it lasted for years, just soaking every gig, just stress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it not like level off over time of just getting used to, the tolerance level, I suppose you could call it, in terms of just doing it from so often?
Mm-hmm. Aye, that did come, but there was a in my mind there was a switch that was flicked, and that was that it doesn't matter what I do as a human being. It doesn't matter what anyone does. Nobody can judge you. So as soon as that clicked in my head, then there was no stress.
Yeah,
managed to relax.
Okay, there's no stress, and then attempt to enjoy the performance and get right into it. Okay.
I think if you're too focused on the external rather than the internal, you're losing the enjoyment of actually doing what you're doing. That's the whole reason you started doing music, right? Is because of the love of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what do you do to cope with like the build up to like if you've got a big gig coming up? I mean, what's the steps you have to take personally to keep yourself calm, be happy to perform, and get, like you say, get yourself in the zone? I know you were saying you have that moment when you just click, but if say for your next big gig coming up, do you know like a couple of steps you're going to take prior to keep yourself in the zone? Or
if it's a big gig, I'll have a set list and I'll have it practiced.
Yeah.
And I'll just think about enjoying myself, because I know if I'm enjoying myself, that the chances are other folk will as well.
Yeah.
If they see me stressed out,
Then it's going to feed off into them, right? Yeah.
But if I'm really enjoying it, I am, because my head's going wild.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, and then as I say, nobody can really judge you apart from yourself. I kind of feel so. If I know I'm doing my best, I don't really care if anybody is really enjoying it or not.
Yeah,
If my head's going,
Well, I suppose you've got to enjoy it, though. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, then there's no point, really.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying it,
It's just
you're the
full circle
performer.
going back to the work kind of analogy, right? Of
Well, exactly.
doing things for the sake of doing them, or
Yeah,
like
if you don't like it, you're not going to do it, really. So I mean, you touched on some of the people in the local area that are good and like help you out. But what are your thoughts on like the local current scene and like what's available, who's available, and the contacts?
As far as the gigging scene goes,
Well, gigging and anyone that helps you with your music in the area, really. Like, would you say that they're good at what they do? Obviously, you've spoke of one guy who said all of a sudden he's like helped you like wildly, which is great. But I mean, what else is available to you in the area? Is it more of who you know, or is
that definitely helps. Like, Ken, if you don't know the guys, Ken, if it was an unknown guy, you might need to approach him. But the people that helped me in this last one, I think they're superstars. Like, there's Mcpherson on the guitar. Have you seen him, boys?
No, but I'm sure we will do soon on the album.
He's bananas. Like, he's bananas. He's the best guitar player I've ever seen.
All right.
And he bides in Elgin. He's bananas, and he's really nice. Ken.
Well, those ones you just didn't expect. Is like you just wouldn't expect that kind of personality.
I've struggled to speak to him for years because I'm like, how can you be human? Normal conversation. And then there's the drummer, the guy that played on the album. He's in his 60s now. He's been in the jazz band. He's been a session musician for years. Amazing.
Well, I say being in a jazz band and being the drummer, that's not an easy thing.
That's a vast range of versatility.
And then the bass player, he's been in hundreds of bands and got so much experience, and just had to try and make sure that the quality of players that were coming in to play keyboards and saxes and other instruments was just as high as these guys can. Yeah,
make sure they can keep up essentially. Yeah, that's crazy.
But I mean, out with that, there is a load of good players in Moray on multiple instruments. Like, Kane.
You've got some like really popular bands as well at the moment. Like I think likes of New Mode and I think Bad Actress won an award at one of the Highland shows and stuff like that. And obviously, just we're kind of having to go back pre-pandemic here because obviously a lot of live stuff and that's been shut down. And
exactly.
How did it get to you for like Zoom concerts and stuff like that? Did you indulge in any of them? I seen a few of them. And I was having a look through your page back at like 2020 to see if I could like pick any out. How was that? I would imagine that must have been quite a strange feeling.
Oh, the first 2 or 3 was so strange because you're singing at a camera on a phone, Ken, and I've got my missus sitting on the couch, and she's got a big chalkboard, and people are giving her requests and writing them down. So there was almost a bit of communication between me and the people who are in their own houses.
Yeah.
And I was reading a bit of them speaking to each other, Ken, they're kind of communicating. But it was really strange trying to put your heart and soul and get people going, even if it's like a song like Brown Eyed Girl that you've played 1,000 times. Try to get them going.
But you're just looking at the camera.
But you don't know if they're going or not. Yeah. You don't know if they're having a cup of tea or they're bleasing, they're dancing, or they're watching Emmerdale.
Or all
and
four.
This is just in the go, Ken.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Ken, you just didn't ken what's happening.
I think it's the same with everything, right? Like, one thing that I noticed is like you would have these Zoom calls with like friends and that to keep in touch, and it just wasn't the same. And I think it proves that like we are social creatures, even from like an entertainment standpoint, right? Like, and I watched a few kind of Zoom concerts, and it just felt unorthodox. I know we're always kind of uncomfortable with doing new stuff, but it's something like I kind of realized there's no atmosphere to it, and I think that's like the biggest thing I could take away from it. Like, to go back to the beach bar for a second, like we actually mentioned this in the beach bar episode. There was obviously like a big hall where they would have certain acts play, but a lot of the times when Chris and people like Scott Ramsey and that were gigging, they had like quite an intimate setup next to like the jukebox and stuff like that, and it was quite packed, and there were always like good vibes around the place and that, and I think that's deadly important to music itself, and that's just coming from like an outsider,
Definitely, it makes you feel more connected with the people.
Yeah, really. For sure.
And like you were saying, your locals or your fans, that's a big thing for you, isn't it?
Oh, aye. You need to get the response immediately, Ken.
And that's one way to get it, definitely. Being at the beach bar.
May it rest in peace. But even people you don't know, right? Like, if someone, in a unique way, right, in person, you can attract people that maybe wouldn't listen to your stuff just on the internet for the sake of listening on the internet, because there is that lack of social connection again, right? Whereas if you're sitting having a good time, or even with your family, and then you hear good music in the background, You know, that's a more powerful thing in my mind. And it's almost like, it's kind of like how I view writing stuff when you type it compared to having like a connection with a pen in your mind to a bit of paper. And I know that sounds like really cliche and it's like, oh, what's the difference? But I do like believe there's like an element of importance of like personal connection between things rather than this kind of firewall of like the internet and digitization, if you will. What do you make of stuff like Spotify and SoundCloud that have came about in the last 10 years? Because I would imagine that's changed the industry, both professionally and more like independent stuff on that forever. And we've discussed this a couple of times before with the previous musicians of, I think there's a positive to it and there's also a negative to it.
The huge positive is for a consumer like myself is I pay £10 a month and I can listen to anything. Go and walk a dog, and I think that is amazing. But for a playing point of view, it's a absolute disgrace. Like it's horrible. Like, Ken, I'm spending £60 plus VAT to put an album onto Spotify, and if I get that back in a year, I'm laughing. Ken. But likes of some of the guys I follow, Ken, they're getting hundreds of thousands of hits a week, and that's maybe working for them, but it's pennies, Ken. I think it's really, something's got to be done. And I heard the YouTube model getting used the other day. Somebody was saying, like, if you upload it like your videos onto YouTube for free, and then you get paid through advertising, I think that might work, Ken.
For sure. Like a kind of third party kind of process rather than like there being not an elite class and a working class, but the player and the corporation, and there's only like one line of communication. Is like, well, this is what you're getting paid, and we decide it, and we own the company, the platform, and we'll just not play your music or have it on the platform in general. And I think one thing that we talked about in Musicians for Moray Part 2 was, I think stuff like tour buses and that is like a dying trend now and stuff like that because of like Spotify and that.
Music's easy. It's kind of easier to get your hands on when it's on things like Spotify or YouTube. The power is in your hand. Like, I see what you were saying with like live gigging like through Zune and all that. It takes the whole thrill out of it. For me as a consumer as well, I wouldn't enjoy like watching a gig on a laptop.
I think it desensitizes you to a lot of stuff. The internet totally in general, right? Like, even like when we were talking about, like, I know we're not really relating to music here, the Jeremy Kyle thing, but we were talking about when people go through like horrible situations on that show, and you know, from the TV side of it, we're kind of like, oh no, you know, that's funny and whatnot, or whatever, what most people would view it as. But if someone's going through that in front of you, you wouldn't respond like that, you know. And I think there's like there's kind of, it all comes into one, the whole internet to, you know, virtual to reality type of this kind of quantum leap that we're making, because it is something that is taking over the market digitally. Everything is going digital, do you know?
Yeah, but I think that comes into play with your marketing as well, though, isn't it? If you do your hard copy albums, you release them first, don't you? You have like your timelines before everything starts getting released on other media platforms. Because I had a look on the YouTube channel. You do a lot of covers as well. I was saying to Ryan earlier, I was quite impressed with one of them, because I was checking through and I was like, all right, some of them I didn't know. I was like, well, I'll pick one I know. First one I seen, Just Like a Pill by Pink. I was like that. Yeah, I said to Ryan, I was quite impressed. So I was like, actually, was not bad. I was like, I like you must have some kind of screening that you have behind you.
The big blue screen.
Yeah. So is that just a setup? Is that just your studio at home? Is it?
I just bought one of these backdrops.
Oh, is that all it is? Oh, that's not bad.
We might have to invest in one of them. Take the garage door and the big ass TV.
I think I'm going to sell it. You can
have it. It's been a blue screen all along. We don't really have a garage door and a TV in the peripherals. It's just for, I don't know, dramatic effect, whatever they say.
So what's your have you got any plans for moving forward with your music?
The deal is that what I'm going to do for the rest of my days is do albums, until I can't do anymore. That's what I'm going to do. So, and I would like the turnover to be a bit quicker. In 4 years to do one. This latest one took 3 years. We're getting a year quicker every time. But I really need that turnover to be quicker, because I've got 22 albums sitting at home, ready to go, ready to give to musicians to learn, and that number's getting bigger all the time.
Really?
And it's not like every song you write you're binning 70% of them. They're never going to see the light of day. But all this is ready to go,
Yeah. What album was your most favorite one to do?
Favorite track, or
No, just the favorite album in general.
oh,
Yeah.
this latest one was the most fun. Like,
Yeah, treading
most
water.
fun.
Is that because you feel like you progressed as a musician through every single one? Like the next one you put out is always going to be the best one because you've improved off the pitch of, like, we can use that analogy. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely improved felt like I've improved as a writer with it, like, and an arranger, trying to arrange the tracks. But it was most fun because of the players.
Oh yeah.
That's what really made it.
Felt like you'd leveled up with the I don't want to say the equipment because there's other people involved in it as well, but like the tools that you had at your disposal and stuff like that. Like, yeah, again, I don't want to refer to people as tools, but I'm just, the environment you had around you was much more professional. Is that fair to say?
Oh, aye,
yeah.
Aye.
Can you tell us a bit about the songwriting process? Because I guess this is kind of the same as the first live gig in a way, because it must be an intimidating thing. Like you mentioned earlier, nowadays you'll sit with a guitar and one thing that I'm surprised about, having spoken to a couple of musicians so far, is there's never any thinking goes behind songs. It's something that just clicks. And
I've witnessed a few music groups do jams. They just go for a jam session, and it's quite amazing as to what can come out. And it comes out of nowhere. Like I'm sat there thinking, how is that guitarist all of a sudden, or how it's normally the bassist and the drummer most people will tend to follow, and all of a sudden them two will start all of a sudden kind of like tuning up, and the guitarist will start, and if they're not the vocalist comes out, and it's like you say, they just something, and you're like, that doesn't really, and I think it's all just like you say, for finding like a tempo or a steady beat, and then from there from the group I seen, Bittersweet, bless them, way back in the day.
Aye.
That's how I used to go around their house and watch this jam sesh just happen, and all of a sudden like songs be born. And you're like, wow. It's like, but to me, I was just amazed. Couldn't do it myself, not a chance.
That brings like the creativity into it, right? Like, I guess from my kind of point of view, because when we do podcasts and documentaries and stuff, like, we're kind of trying to get information, and it's quite robotic in a way, where music can't really be robotic, because you would sense that, I would feel like, if you're like, oh, this person had an idea and they wrote it, everything from just A to B, like, where it's more spontaneous. I think there's more kind of relatability to that in terms of emotion and feeling, and what obviously emotions music is meant to spark. So going back to the live gigging for a second, how much are you looking forward to getting back out there? Have you actually done anything yet? I know
I've done about 20 in the last couple of months.
Hey, oh man.
So I'm back in. The fingers are pretty happy.
Yeah.
The shoulders nae too happy, but it'll be another couple of weeks, a couple of months. It'll be happy. I'm nae being able to hit the notes that I was pre-lockdown. I don't really know what's happening there. Like, but playing in front of people, that's terrific. Like,
yeah,
that's terrific.
So there was no readjustment period of the anxiety happening again?
No, I thought there was going to be. I was nervous in the weeks building up to the first one. Am I still going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
After the first chord,
fine.
I'm back in. I'm on the bike again, back in.
Living for the thrill.
And getting a bigger buzz than I was before.
Yeah.
I'm getting quite a buzz for being paid to shake my head.
It's not bad. Well, I mean, it's got to be a sense of achievement, because I mean, from the sounds of it, you do put a hell of a lot of work into all of this, really, and you guide people on roughly which way you want them to go with it. I mean, so you're definitely because it states the Chris Grant Band, I'm guessing, so there's a reason why it's the Chris Grant Band, is because you do most of the work involved. Obviously, the guys play a big part, but you kind of guide them as to where you want them to go with it. Yeah.
And it's different musicians for every album as well, you see. So
that is a lot of work that goes into
collective, but I write the songs, and I'm not letting somebody else take control.
Because it is your vision at the end of the day, right?
Bit of control freak, you can.
Do you enjoy, maybe kind of contradicts what we're just saying here, but do you enjoy having different musicians and different kind of styles and maybe opinions and stuff like that around to help maybe you grow as a musician just in general?
Oh, I definitely.
Because in one of them you've got, who played the harmonica?
That's Daniel Henderson for Bucky.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. that was a nice touch. I think that was the blues one, the Stones.
He's played on he's played in 2 or 3 of the albums. Like Daniel, he will be playing again in the future. Kane.
Yeah, because like I say, the harmonica, it's you don't.
It doesn't get a lot of press, really, right? Like everything when you associate with music, like keyboard, guitar, drums. There is other like different instruments out there that don't get enough love, man.
And it's one of those ones, harmonica. When you hear that, most people are like, yes.
Yeah. You always associate it with like films and people in prison trying to like. It's always a sense of hope in a way. Because it's always when someone's going through like a bad time, they're playing the harmonica. Do you know? I think that's a legit thing, though. Yeah. I've just thought about. I've literally never seen a harmonica in a film if they've not been in prison. Maybe I've just not watched enough films.
Maybe. So well, I suppose do you want to do the final big question?
Hold on, we have one more before the final big one. I want just for the live gigging briefly again. Can you explain to us one gig that you would say has been your all-time favourite, and there must be a one on the other side of the spectrum of where it's been a complete disaster?
Playing or watching?
We'll go both. We'll go for so we'll go great gig that you've done, great gig that you've been to, bad gig that's happened with you involved, and bad gig that you've been to.
Right. Great gig that I've done. No. I've never walked off a stage and been I did the best I could do.
I think that's a good mindset to have, though, right?
It only comes like if it's a 3-hour gig, then it's only lasting for like 20 minutes. Through every 20 minutes, that's a good 20 minutes, and that's a poor one. Well, no, sorry, I tell a lie. I did a wedding in Bogbane Farm a couple of years ago with a band, wedding band, and we walked off stage thinking, "Oh fuck, we nailed it!" Like that one. What was the next one?
A good gig that you've personally attended. What's been the favourite gig that you've went to as a consumer, a viewer, a fan?
The one of the highlights of my life was going to see Tool.
Oh, Tool's an incredible band. They are an incredible. You've seen them live? I've
seen them twice. Wow. The once was standing, and that was the first ever big gig I'd been to.
And it was a Tool gig. That's fair.
John's mind is blown right now.
That was heaven.
I did not expect you to say that. I did not expect you to.
I would imagine from the gigs that I've been to, standing is like the authentic experience. Like I used to think to myself, like before I'd start going to gigs and that, why wouldn't people sit more comfy with? But I don't think you actually get it until you're standing and being around people, and there's people you don't know and you're speaking to them and stuff, and you'll never meet those people again. But for that 2-3 hour period, you've connected over something, and you could be on other side of the world kind of idea, and I think that's the beauty about music. It does bring a unity to populations and stuff like that. Like you see bands from the United Kingdom go across to Japan or something, and they're singing the lyrics to that song, but they don't even speak English as one of their languages, and that always blows my mind, that the power that music has in general.
I think I watched a gig with Iron Maiden, and they done that. It was somewhere over in the Middle East, essentially, and they went there and started. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have a clue what they were singing about, but their fan base is huge. It's absolutely crazy. Honestly, absolutely. I was bewildered, just watching it on TV. But okay, it's fair. You wouldn't have thought it, but yeah, fair play. Like Iron Maiden, big fans.
Gigs that have went wrong then. We'll start a gig that you didn't like going to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I went to see Alice Cooper in the new P&J Live in Aberdeen. Alice was amazing. The band on before Alice was the Stranglers.
Right.
And it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I was looking at the thousands of people, and apart from the front row and maybe the second row, there was maybe 20 folk, 30 folk standing up, the Stranglers. I looked at the rest of the folk, and they all looked the same as me. What the F are these boys doing here? Okay, they were playing was fine, the singing was fine, but it was minging.
Yeah,
didn't suit the night, kid.
Aye, I think there has to be a certain atmosphere you have to present, especially with Alice Cooper. It's quite heavy rock from what I remember of it and stuff like that. So. It's not a great name to start off with, though, is it?
No.
It's not something that makes you feel welcome for sure.
Yeah, so come on then, Chris. What's the worst one you feel that you've done?
The worst gig I've played. It's quite a number.
Are you your own biggest critic?
I would be. Well, my missus is pretty good at it. Okay. Me and my pal turned up to do a gig in Skye, so we'd driven to Skye, and the guy says, "You're not here till next week." So, all right, well, we're not driving home. It's pissing rain. It's 8 at night. We'll not get home in time for the weather, Kane. He says, "Oh, we can play for your supper, like you can play for a bed, Kane." And there was just me and my pal playing, and the barman. Kane, that wasn't great. Didn't play that well that night.
Nah.
Kane.
I think you do learn from that though, right? Like there is something to take out of that. Like I when I was quite younger, I used to think failure was the end of the world, right? And I think there's a good saying of don't let success get to your head and don't let failure get to your heart. As long as you keep that balance, you'll be okay, right? Because I mention this all the time on the podcast, but I'm a big believer of corruption of the mind, of like power and stuff like that. It comes in many different forms, and success and failure can be that. And it's always that kind of constant battle between powerlessness and too powerful, right? And you see it just in society, let alone like something that you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
A couple other little generic ones we have before we have the big final question that we have for you. Who are your favourite people in music, Chris?
Musicians that I admire.
Yeah.
Well, all the boys for Tool. There's a guy on YouTube called Rick Beato, who's used to be a music producer.
Oh, right,
and then gave it up maybe 4 or 5 years ago to be a YouTuber.
Oh.
And he'd be in his 50s or 60s, and he's got like a master's in classical guitar. So he breaks down, one of the things he does on his channel, he breaks down famous songs, and right, listen to the intro, right, the bass is doing this, he shows you, right, listen to the pre-chorus, right, this is when the fiddle comes in and does this bit. I think he's a big inspiration for me, like when it comes to the putting the tunes together. There's a guy called Matt Anderson, this Canadian guy, and Ewan Mcpherson. They're both singer-songwriters, and I look at that too all the time and see what they're up to, and see what fuck these guys can do. that's what I'm kind of.
Do you get like an adrenaline rush off of that? Of like it kind of constantly reminds you of why you're doing it. If that makes sense.
Well, it's when I watch them too. But then the guy that I'm completely in love with just now, the Marcus King Band. This guy's 25 years old, and he's stupid, like absolutely stupid.
Stupid in a good way though.
He's playing in the whole band, and there are 4 albums in, and I'm looking at when I see him, I'm believing that this is a 25-year-old who's already a legend like Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Clapton. And he's already there.
Wow. And
he's hopefully going to do this for the next 50 years. I get a real kick out of watching this guy. Like,
is there moments when you're watching him that you feel like you got to go grab your pen and like your paper and start writing some stuff down, or?
Mostly I want to grab a bucket.
Yeah.
and spew in, Ken. It sometimes makes you feel worthless, Ken, watching this guy.
Yeah.
But then as a fan, as a music fan, he puts me on cloud 9 all the time, Ken.
That's good.
Music is immortal, man, in terms of the legacies that you can leave behind. I mean, we can list off many like Hendrix, Bob Marley, Marvin Gaye, and all different kind of styles you can think of. Frank Sinatra, Dean, all these people live forever. Like they never die, even though
they're forgotten. That's for sure.
Their physical form might not be here. Their music will live on until whatever this existence is decides to stop existing. But anyway, on to more happy matters. Final question we've got for you before we let you go. Doing appreciate the time today. What does music ultimately mean to you?
Well, is that your big question?
Yes.
Oh. If there wasn't any music, I couldn't listen to any music. That would be, if it got taken away, that would be devastation. Like, utter devastation. I mean, I love Fitba. Love watching Fitba, playing Fitba. Disney come close. to music. Like, if there was no music, we'd be fucked.
Do you think it's because it's quite? I know football used to be quite related to like a working class background, but now with the, and I know musicians at the top level get paid a lot as well, but I think there's like a disconnect between like working class and like sport now because it's so elite and it's so kind of brand orientated now and stuff like that. Whereas like music always has that kind of connection between, like we said, I feel like if you took music out of the world, everyone would be robots. The human element of humans would be gone. And I do like genuinely believe that, because we can talk about songs that make us sad, angry, happy, any kind of emotion that you want to put out there. Music has made you feel like that at some point in your life.
Without a doubt. Like I say, I go for a daily walk a day. I just stick on the tunes, go for a stomp around Lossy, and some of the tunes I don't realise. I'm quite a tall guy, so I take quite large steps as it is. But when I've got, I think it's Daft Punk, One More Time on.
Yeah, classic.
I'm gone. I don't realise it. Some people are like, you're in a hurry, and I'm like, oh, slow down a little bit. I don't need to run. I'm just like going for a wee stop. But
it's quite a unique
thing,
music as well, because it affects other bits of art as well. Like you see people revealing their art in like an art gallery to music.
Well, yeah,
some of the best films are made with their great instrumentals. Like music is everywhere, you know. And I think that's, if that was to go, then what would the world be? You know, like I know that sounds a bit kind of dramatic, but it really does make you think, right?
Like the film Equilibrium, when art's been taken away, like I think it would be quite similar to that. You can,
yeah,
very dull,
mundane, yeah.
But there's people coming to my shop, and because I work at the Coat just now, so I'm getting the interaction in the checkout every day, which that's been good for me for the last year, speaking to people.
Yeah,
but there's some people come in and they didn't listen to music, and they've never listened to music, and they wouldn't be bothered, Ken. But it's a small percentage. Ken, most people you speak to, they've got their thing. Ken, they'll tell you their top 10 bands, musicians, albums that they're into, whatever the track is, and that gets them to cloud nine, Ken. But some folk doesn't have any effect on them at all, Ken. It's really strange, isn't it?
That is really strange. It's kind of like, do you have a soul? Are you human?
We don't know. Right, before we let you go, dude, we thought plug the social media pages, music pages. We'll link it all down in the description anyway.
Okay. Facebook is Chris Grant Music. Spotify is just Chris Grant. I'm not the guy for Liverpool. I'm not the Beyonce's backup dancer. I'm the one that's currently got a bridge as my face, and it looks like a bridge. And YouTube is Chris Grant Music, and follow me on Instagram if you can find me. If you want to, if you like pictures of food and dogs.
That's what Instagram's for at the end of the day, right? That's what I see most on it, and that'll all be linked down in the description. And John, go quickly. We'll announce to people that might not have seen. We'll promote it on our social medias and stuff anyway. Chris has been kind enough to give us 2 copies, but one is for the Northeast Corner, and one is going to be raffled in a way, if you like, signed by the man himself. And the announcement of the winner will be the day after this is released, so you've got just over a week and a half to, you know, I'll show you where you can like it and stuff to enter if you've not done it already. But anyway, thank you very much for your time today, Chris.
Thanks very much for the experience, boys.
Great meeting you.
Wish you all the best
Thanks
as
very
well.
much for the experience.
You've got a great energy, dude, and we're rooting for you here at the Northeast Corner. Thanks again for coming on. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Take care from the NEC, guys.
This podcast is also available on Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocketcasts, RadioPublic, and Spotify.